And we are live. So, this was a fun one.
Yes.
And there may be a bit of a quote the Macho Man as he always did that. We may have a bit of a difference of opinion, about this movie, but I mean, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that this was just a fun movie. I only saw it once, but for some reason, I think I found it once in a used DVD rack, and I bought it for like $5. And it's not a movie that you would watch all the time. But I mean, when I did, there were some like fall down funny moments in it, and I want to get into that a little bit because 2 episodes ago we were talking about comedy, and I think that I was kind of misunderstood, and that's my own fault for not being more articulate. But I'd like to clarify some of the points. So shall we just get into it?
I say let's dive head first.
All right.
Let's do it.
So before I can dry the ink on these intros, then my guests just sort of play musical chairs with me. I was planning to have John K. Alvarez here in the house tonight, but what have I got? I've got Aesop Fibber.
That would be correct, yeah.
Yeah, and the moral of the story is,
John Alvarez just doesn't show up.
Don't make a fucking intro is what the I'm just gonna make a fucking generic intro, and it's gonna be like what movie are we gonna rail about today, or what movie are we gonna love today, and these sorts of things. It'll just be like our heads turning, like in the Rogan podcast, that sort of thing. The wheels on
we
the.
have to go this way because Rogan, I think, has that copyright.
The wheels on the bus, man. The wheels on the bus.
We go round and round, man.
So we are here today to cover, I think, our first Sam Raimi film, and I'm sure before
the year is out.
Well, the sun sets, figuratively. We will be covering some more Raimi in the future. I know Bill definitely wants to get into some Raimi, and I know exactly which ones he wants to get into, and I'm sure you do too.
I'm to be honest, I was surprised because this was on my top 10 list. And for those of you who haven't seen that, please go ahead and look in the file. There's part 1 and 2.
Yeah.
But the idea of I picked Drag Me to Hell. 1, I really liked the movie a lot. And 2, it's Sam Raimi, and I was surprised that he wasn't covered. To be honest, because I'm like, when you're talking, especially a show like this, when you're approaching horror, that's storytelling, horror that's like using not special effects a lot of the time, but practical effects and things like that. That's Sam.
Yeah.
He has a few every now and then, like CGI stuff, but a lot of it is,
The CGI is a little dated, but that's just an issue of the time that it was made in. By and large, there are a lot of practical effects here, and they're just in your face.
Yeah.
We had covered the top 10 list, and then yesterday, Rod and I covered Train to Busan, which was just, an emotional roller coaster. What a movie. Hold on, we've got some comments here. Eric is in the house. It's good to have you here, brother.
Thank you, Eric.
Raimi scored big with this one for one after doing Spider-Man 3 a couple of years before. Yeah, we're not. That could be a something shitty.
There you go.
Which wasn't awful, but man, there was some choices. Who is the guy in that movie who played the Sandman?
Oh, I know who you're
He had his 15 minutes there for a while. He was in that movie Sideways, and then he
He's
did the
also on Wings.
Huh?
If you ever saw the TV show Wings,
I never saw it, but
he was the mechanic on that show.
He was also in a really great Western with Robert Duvall called Broken Trail, which was a true story. And yeah, he was great in that, playing the Sandman.
He was, if I'm not mistaken, was also in Tombstone.
Thomas Hayden Church, yes. Thank you, Eric.
I knew it was Church. I couldn't remember the first two names.
Now, Eric, you and I are going to get into it on Tuesday. We're going to be doing Starship Troopers. Dang. And if John, if you ever want to join us for that one, you're more than welcome. I think it's streaming on Amazon and Hulu. So it's easily available if you want to from that. He's great in a horror movie called Demon Knight. Yeah.
Yes.
Tales from the Crypt. Yeah, Tales from the Crypt themed. Yeah, that was their first movie. And then they went into that bordello of blood. And I think we talked about it when we did From Dusk Till Dawn. From Dusk Till Dawn was supposed to be the second Tales from the Crypt movie.
Yep. And they turned it down.
Yeah, it was too over the top. It was too over the top. That's a hell of a movie. Now,
Dennis Miller.
Yeah. You know, okay. Angie Everhart, but why the hell is Dennis Miller in there? Like, he didn't fit.
No.
A round peg in a square hole, you know? And I got nothing against Dennis Miller, you know? He's a funny guy. Yeah, but he wasn't a good fit for that.
Yes.
He's not an actor. He's a comedian.
Yeah.
And some comedians can't act, you know, and then, you know, some just can't. And yeah, that's the way that turned out.
Yeah.
So this movie starts out in 1969. And the minute this movie started, my position was cemented. Because it starts out where these Mexican or Latino parents, or they go to this woman because their son is having these fits, and you know, he's saying that he's seeing things and so on and so forth, and it turns out that he's cursed, and he's cursed for steal, like he's like a child. He's like 10 years old, like 8, maybe 10 years old, and he stole like a bracelet, like out of a street vendor's market. Right. And the person who you're not sure if it's the villain in this movie or it's somebody else, has cursed him and sent him to hell. And I'm like, you know, I can understand if you were a poor street vendor. I mean, I've lived in places where, you know, people like literally are making their livelihoods out of this. It's no fundraiser. And so you're making day-to-day, you know, kind of money. And I could see how you would be really furious. And, you know, maybe you'd want to kick that kid square in the ass, you know, call the police, you know, but like to cast a 10-year-old kid into hell, that's a bridge too far for me.
Yeah, well, to me, I took it as maybe somebody who also had it, left it in the with the person who was selling it on the street to get, you know, to see if somebody else would pick it up and take the curse. Initially, only because, and that's foreshadowing.
Oh, that's a thought. You think that, you think, no, because he was told that he stole it, right? He didn't pick it up off the street. He stole it out of the market.
Yeah, but he stole it, but the person who threw it in there was trying to pass it on to the street vendor, and they never collected it, and the kid just happened to steal it. You know, that's how I took it as.
It's possible.
You know, and
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. But no, this is one of the reasons why I liked Sam Raimi on it, is the fact that it was somebody who was innocent. And again, going to the foreshadowing of the upcoming story, an innocent person could be blamed for one act, which is not uncommon in some certain things. The Aesop fibber to me is because this is a Greek moral tale type deal, or morality tale. That even if you're a good person and do one bad act for yourself, you can get in trouble.
See, all right, well, let's break it down a little bit. So we start out with this story, and we've got Alison Lohan. She's starring as a loan officer in a bank, and she is just this kind and thoughtful and sweet girl. She's doing her job, doing her best. She's bucking for a promotion, as the assistant manager of the bank. And she's up against this guy who is just a complete jerk off. This guy named Stu. And so Stu is the sleazy, he'll cut you out from, if you've ever worked with someone, who's trying to steal your job, or just kind of tank you. He is the typical person, schmoozing with bosses, and doing everything he can, every single moment to make you look bad because he wants to be the assistant manager of the bank.
Right.
Now, this situation, that's her work situation. And because she's so kind and nice, she just steps into it like every time.
Of course.
Like there's a situation once where, the boss is like asking her, can you take your lunch now? And she's like, yeah. Would you do me a favor? Would you mind grabbing me something? She's like, yeah, sure, no problem. Which is, I was a little off put by that. You know me, I'm no progressive at all. But I was just like, I don't know if he should be doing that. Like he should be getting his own lunch. Like I've been a boss. Like if I have friends, I might ask them or something like, oh, you're going down there, grab me something real quick. But
yeah,
it didn't strike me as that kind of relationship. He was kind of taking advantage of the position, because he knew that she wanted the assistant manager's job. So he was just kind of taking a gratuitous perk. And the minute he says that Stuart Jackoff walks past and, hey, will you grab something for me too? Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
And rather than blow up, or, she didn't exactly understand how to handle it tactfully. Next thing you know, she's running errands for Stuart.
Right.
And then he tries to make her look bad by saying, hey, I said no mayo. You screwed this, the way he says it, you screwed the order up, this sort of thing. Yeah. So she's this person, she's kind of like the she's like a one-legged person at a butt-kicking contest. She has no prayer.
We know, we both know people that are like that. And I think there's a lot of people who do know that.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you said she's not a progressive.
No, I said I'm not a progressive.
You're not a progressive, I'm sorry. Because there's a line in the movie when she asked the manager about the assistant manager's position, and he said, well, it's between you and Stu.
Yeah.
And the first thing she says, the new guy.
Yeah.
He hasn't even been there as long as she had.
Right.
But has gotten up the chain.
Yeah, he's real aggressive, and he knows, he seems to know the ropes, and he's a fast learner, and he's also a schmooze and a weasel.
And we know some of them too.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, unfortunately, when someone's a schmooze and a weasel, the last person who picks up on it is the person that's being schmoozed up.
And weasel.
Yeah, and weasel.
I agree.
Yeah, they never pick up on it. Everybody else is looking at it in a circle and like, can you believe this, butt kissing, schmoozer, and the person the boss that's being schmoozed just never, ever, notices anything.
Or he expects it,
It's entirely possible. Yeah.
I've had a few bosses who expected butt schmoozing, and needless to say, I wasn't working there that long.
Yeah. Some people just aren't cut out that way, and some people are, and this guy clearly is. Now she's got a boyfriend played by Justin Long, and I hadn't seen Justin Long since I think Marty and I had covered Jeepers Creepers.
Right.
Where he's just fantastic in that. As this panicky brother as part of a brother-sister duo that's on the run from the creeper. He's just a nice guy. He's a college professor or a teacher or something like that. She's nice. He's nice. They're nice people. She's getting stepped on at work, though. And then this situation presents itself where this really sort of foul-looking lady shows up. She's spitting she's hawking phlegm, and she's like, all of her teeth are gone, and the dentures that she does have are like brown, and she's just, really unsettling. She's got these long, nasty, thick brown fingernails, and it turns out her situation is that on this day, she shows up on the day that the people are there to move her out of her house because she has defaulted on her mortgage.
Right. Twice.
And she wants
A third
a
extension.
further extension.
Yeah.
Now, here's what I guess what you're saying about the morality tale is.
Right.
Now, she goes to the boss, and the boss says, it's your call.
Mm-hmm.
He looks up the record. We've given this lady 2 extensions.
Mm-hmm.
It's your call. She looks over at the assistant manager's job, because she's just taken 2 of these little wet napkin smacks in the face from Stu, for about 10 minutes or something. And she decides to tell the lady, no, I'm sorry. We can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, I don't see that she did anything wrong. Mm-hmm. I don't know that she made a business decision.
Right.
She made a business decision. She didn't enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
She was, not callous or anything like that. But she simply said, look, I'm sorry. We've given you 2 extensions and there's anything about this that we can do, which was a little dishonest because ultimately it was her decision. But anybody who works anywhere in a situation like that knows that no one's going to phrase it that way.
Right. Exactly.
And from there, it just erupts into this woman breaking down, sobbing. Alison Lohan is just, she's like shocked and like frightened because the lady just goes on her knees and she's grabbing her skirt and she's trying to kiss her hand. And she really is foul looking. Like when she comes back from the bank's office, you can see that she's laid out her teeth like on the table, and she's putting them in there. And she is a human being, but at the same time, you wouldn't be wrong to be a little off. It wouldn't be, out of the ordinary to be a little off-put by this person.
Right.
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, she was begging because she was at the very end of the term, at the end of her rope.
Yeah.
And the thing about, because it comes back to me, because in the scene prior to that, when the boss was talking about it, it says you don't have the guts to make the tough call. And then when he says it's your call, she could have easily, yes, it's a business decision, but she could have easily turned around and said, look, let me see what I can do, and go back and give her a small extension to help her out there too.
She could have played it either way.
Yeah.
My argument is that by making the one call that she did, she didn't do anything wrong.
Oh, but this is where the morality play, or the decision that I call it a morality play, and it's funny because Sam Raimi said that's when he wrote it with his brother. It was that way. The decision that she made to not give her the loan to show that she was tough. Lohan's character was, Loman's character was to show it was something for herself. It was the first time she did something for herself because it would make her look good to be the manager or the assistant manager.
She did something for her. Yeah.
She did something for herself, and that's why the payment or the play comes in. This goes back to Greek morality plays.
Yeah, I don't see it as her making the wrong call. Okay. I think in either decision, and we're just talking back and forth. Okay. I think either decision is the right decision.
Right.
Either decision is the right decision. This is the call that she's made. It's a business decision, and the bank manager, who's, like I said, is a little, he's not really a jerk or anything, but he looks at her and he goes, you handled that perfectly.
Yeah.
In a very business, he goes, you handled, I forget what he said, but he was like, you handled that correctly. Like you did that entire thing correctly.
Right.
And so from there, once she starts to fall apart and fall on her knees, she realizes in a second what she's done, and it explodes into a violent thing.
Yes.
And so,
shame me, now I shame you.
Yeah, and she's kind of, I don't know that the woman shamed her. Mm-hmm. That's the whole thing. And this is what cemented it for me. My initial impression from 1969 was that it was this woman.
Yeah.
It was this woman. So if this woman that cursed that boy, so if she cursed that little boy, and I could be wrong, then she's an evil magpie to begin with.
She's a gypsy.
Yeah, well, she's evil.
Yeah.
She's just evil. I mean, I've met some gypsies, and they're not
I
going around cursing people to go to hell,
Right.
or 10-year-old children to go to hell, or if you've missed your own. I'm starting to sound like I'm on Fox News or something. You missed 2 loan payments. It's nobody's fault. It's not anybody else's fault that
No, yeah, but
you've missed your payments.
The shame was when she got out on her knees and was burying herself, and security came and everything else. He goes, yes, the woman got on her knees, but she's like, you're shaming me by not helping me, and that's why her.
That's an MSNBC argument.
Yeah, she's also arguing.
Yeah. She's. I understand from a human perspective, she's losing everything.
Right.
She's losing her home. She's probably going to lose her independence because she's going to have to move in with her granddaughter, and all these different things. And so, in the space of a couple of minutes, which, one way or the other, I think we're getting hung up on the wrong thing.
Sure. Okay.
I think that, she realized, she lost everything. So she had a very human reaction. Now, we get into it, and later that day, as the wait, hold on, we got a couple comments here. Can't wait for Thursday. Oh yeah, we're gonna talk some Verhoeven. That's gonna be Tuesday though. And Eric's got to go. You'll catch the replay and comment his thoughts. See you Tuesday, and he wishes you a good night, John.
Thank you, sir.
John, if you want, come on with us Tuesday and just talk some Starship Troopers.
I'm all for it, man.
It's on Hulu and Amazon if you want to catch catch up on it.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen it exactly. Rico's Roughnecks.
All right. Make a spoof on Rico's name now.
So yeah. It could be Johnny. Yeah. Okay. So what it turns into after this, the car fight.
Right.
Because this is where this lady just further cements my disdain. Because it isn't a curse until she physically attacks her in the car. And I'm just like, what did this girl do that was so bad that, you're going to try to, I don't know if she was trying to kill her or she didn't know what she was doing. But I mean, all right, let's.
I agree with that.
The car fight scene was one of the funniest damn things I had seen in a long time. I had a good, hearty laugh because they're just banging each other to death in this car.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she was genuinely trying to kill her, but it was one of the funniest damn fights I'd seen in a long time.
And that's Sam Raimi. I mean, no joke intended. Sam Raimi can, that up-close interaction with people, especially the physicality, he'll throw in some humor for that very reason. Did you ever get into a fight in a car?
No, I don't think so.
I grew up with brothers and sisters.
Okay.
Shove ram. That's what it reminded me a lot of, even though she was trying to kill him. It was like,
yeah, it's an enclosed space, so there's going to be a lot of impact, all over the place. Nowhere to run.
And you're right. It made me giggle too.
I had this. I've only seen this once before, so I remember kind of what it was about, and I just watched it this afternoon. I started it at like noon. I'm like, shit, I better go watch Drag Me to Hell. And I laughed out loud. I almost fell off the couch a couple of times. I was laughing so hard. Here's the thing, and I was talking about this a couple of days ago, and I wanted to clarify something about what I said because we were talking about American Werewolf, I think it was.
Yeah.
And I said I held a resentment about the comedy aspects of it.
Okay.
And I don't know if you remember that, and you were
yes,
just like, yeah, okay. That's not exactly what I meant, although I wasn't clear. I hold a resentment against that movie. I think that horror, I think that comedy has a valuable place within horror.
Right.
Because comedy and horror, to my understanding, are similar in their need for good timing.
Right.
Comedy requires great timing. Good horror requires great timing. You put those things together like this, and you've got a really solid movie. My resentment against American Werewolf was that I just want a solid horror, epic werewolf film, and I feel that Landis turned it into a comedy, which it is. It is it's a comedy. To me, it's a comedy before it's a horror movie. But I didn't mean to say that I don't want comedy in horror films. I have a small resentment because I like American Werewolf. I've had it on VHS. I owned it on DVD. I own it on Blu-ray now. I'd be happy to watch it any time. But,
right.
And
there's some people, and to counter your point, because I agree with you. I agree with exactly what you're saying. But there's a lot of people who, like for myself, when I see it, the horror moments or the horror elements in that movie outweigh the comedic. Yes, the comedic stuff is funny in this movie and in that movie. But the horror elements in it or the scary elements in it outweigh it. There's more to that give it weight. To me, it's always been comedy in a horror movie has always been a release. So you're not sitting there constantly, tightening it. The release gets to relax, and when the next scare thing comes in, you're jumping again, as opposed to...
My opinion is 1 out of 7 billion. So there it is. I just with the werewolf being my favorite monster movie, I've always wanted the epic werewolf movie. But let's get back to
you got it.
To drag me to hell.
Absolutely.
When the fight. So from there, when go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, when the fight gets over, she takes the button and gives her the object
and initiates the curse.
Right.
The curse, where this deity called Lamia
Yep.
Is now going to begin to torment her for 3 days before dragging her down into the pit.
Right.
I guess Lamia is one of the beasts of hell, and he's going to be taking her down there the same way that he took down that little boy in the beginning of the movie.
Right.
So she starts initiating contact with this guy. And did watching it this time, I had the sense that, because I don't necessarily want to go through all the events, and I feel like that's what I'm doing. Did you feel like she had a chance?
In the beginning of the torment, no. I really felt like she was going to get screwed. As the torment went on, and ironically, when she started standing up for herself.
Yeah.
That's when I said she's going to make it. Well, and it's ironic because that's exactly what the bank manager was saying. You weren't standing up. You weren't doing this. You were,
She's a pushover. She's a pushover.
And when she stood up for herself, and again, another fight scene with the witch towards the end of the movie in the grave, that's when you actually even see some anger side of her and everything else. She started standing up to the punishment.
Well, one of the things that are said in the movie, that guy Ram Dass, I love that guy, the guy that played Ram Dass, the Indian dude he was in Inception.
Yeah.
He was the guy who made the potions, and he was like, well, maybe you could sacrifice an animal or something like that. And she's like, I'm a vegetarian. Like, I don't do those things. I mean, she's just such a pushover.
Right.
To have had this happen to her, and he just looks at her and he goes, you might surprise yourself with what you might do before someone drags you down into the pit.
Right.
And
exactly.
She starts to become very aggressive. I mean, she kills her cat.
Yep.
She sacrifices her own cat.
Right.
And you're just like, holy shit, she doesn't want to go down there,
Go there.
Yeah.
That actually in the scene later on in the movie where it's the scene in the diner.
Yeah.
And there were 3 different people she could have given the cursed object to. The guy, the waitress who was kind of rude. There was the guy who was dying, and she could have given it to what's his name, the guy from the bank.
Yeah.
The jerk. But she couldn't do that.
No, she starts. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. It still shows that she's a good person.
Yeah.
I mean, they get dragged to hell, and she doesn't want to do that either.
Yeah. I was thinking that as I was watching this, I'm like, do I know anyone that I would do that to? Yeah. And I've had 1 or 2 people in my life that have been quite, troublesome at various points. I don't think I would do that to anyone that I know.
Right.
And that was the thing. Like the old man, Like the old man was clearly on his last leg in the diner,
Right.
but it's different between him dying,
yeah, and being cursed.
and being cursed.
Yeah.
Yeah, even the schmuck Stu.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, please don't tell my father. I mean, he just turns out to be a big baby. He's just a big pansy.
Yeah.
He's afraid that he's a grown man, probably 30 years old. And he's afraid that his dad's going to find out.
Right.
That he's in trouble with his boss. I mean, he's like a 30-year-old boy.
Right.
And she's just like, get out of here. Like, you're not even worth,
Yeah.
the time it takes to discuss this.
Exactly.
She does start to stray into a wild sort of area.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she comes back, along the path.
Exactly.
And she's not a bad person. Although she did a couple of rough things during the movie.
Yeah, well, and again, going back to using what I was saying before, the morality theme.
Yeah.
She found out a lot about herself as this was going on.
Yeah.
And that's why, to me, the whole sense of when she started experiencing this, like, would I give it to somebody? No, I can't give it. That's when I really started rooting for her, that I wanted her to live and make through this. Because you're like, Jesus Christ, you want a nice guy to finish first, or a nice person to finish first one time.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the person that, the old lady, Luna or Laura, or I can't remember, Lorna or something like that. She was just evil.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She was like, it starts out sad, because she is losing her house, but she was just evil. And when they went to the funeral, you got the sense that those people were kind of evil too, like the granddaughter.
Yes.
You deserve everything. Like, how many people over the course of, a lifetime or a day, lose their house? You don't curse people to hell because you've missed the payments.
Right.
These sorts of things. They were along that evil sort of path. I mean, to even know how to do that kind of thing.
Well, if it's similar in the same stories to like Richard Bachman, which was Stephen King when he wrote the book.
Yeah.
It was when you heard and it was a male gypsy who gave the curses out.
Yeah.
He kept saying, "You don't understand. When we give the curse, it's the curse won't work unless whoever we're asking to step in for us feels we've been harmed."
Yeah.
That was a section of it. And I like that fact that, because I myself know a lot of gypsies and actually even traveled with a few on a couple of road shows, have turned around and said, there is the good kind and there's the kind you hear about, in bad horror movies, that will take it over and things like that. The way it was presented by Raimi and his brother, when they wrote this, Loman, she was unforgivable. Her character, they couldn't forgive. And yes, you're right. It's not her fault that Grandma didn't make the payments. It's not her fault that they didn't keep up with this or no one gave her a hand. And she went as far as she could. But, to her, she was like, you're evil incarnate, because you took away her home. And look, and now she's dead. Well, I think there was other contributing factors to the gypsy's death.
Yeah, she didn't. She looked like she was on her. Like she came in like she was coughing up a lung.
She had a staple in her forehead. I mean,
There's that. Yeah, well, she wouldn't have got a staple in the forehead if she hadn't broken into the car.
True.
That usually will forego any staples to the forehead. Although when that staple hit her forehead, I laughed because she got like 2 or 3 good shots in with that staple.
Oh, and the actress gypsy was Lorna Raver.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when I did some research on the movie herself, she requested that because she started studying the folklore and about the demon from Greek mythology, the one that was tormenting her,
Lamia,
because that was an actual in a Greek story. It was a woman who started eating children and destroying people who were guilty because Hera killed her children and she went insane and became this type demon. That's why the gypsy called for her. And I only know that because I saw her being interviewed and she said, I was requesting, some of the spells be put in Hungarian. I was, because she really got into the folklore of being this gypsy type person.
That's like Hereditary, where like Payman's a real demon.
Yeah.
And Ari Aster was actually he was researching. He said it was so much that he actually had to stop.
Yeah.
Researching into these aspects of the occult.
Yeah.
There's a lot of crazy shit out there in the occult world.
Yeah.
And one of the movies I want to cover, maybe next month we'll do it, is a Christopher Lee movie called The Devil Rides Out.
Ooh, there you go.
And it's about this man. A bunch of his friends discovered that he's starting to dabble in the occult, and their attempts to rescue him. And it's like a 1970 movie with Christopher Lee, of a book that I read. And yeah, the occult is some screwy stuff, man.
Oh,
it's not to be dabbled with. I think it was.
Not at all.
Oh God, who was it who said that? Maybe it was Christopher Lee, where he said he knew a number of people who dabbled into it, and like they've just like gone absolutely insane. I can't remember where those quotes came from, but it was someone who was prominent. It might have been Christopher Lee. It said, "Yeah, I know people who have," and he's like, "It's not a joke."
I know a few people who will sell items at their store only because it says it gets people in it when you put it in the window type deal. But there are other people I know who are seriously into it, and it's amazing because I found myself backing myself away from it, away from them at a certain point, because I'm like, you can feel the change.
Yeah, that's a healthy response.
You're like, there's something about you that's not right.
Yeah, something's off kilter here. Yeah,
and I need to back away. Quickly.
Yeah,
and this is actually some of the things that they were studying in this movie too. Because I don't want to keep going back to Sam Raimi, but I will, because at the time he was riding high on a lot of stuff. He had, besides the 3 Spider-Man movies, he helped produce the X-Men films that were out. I didn't realize he directed The Quick and the Dead with Gene Hackman and Sharon Stone. I mean, he was doing stuff getting away from that, but he wanted to tell this story 10 years before the Spider-Man films came out, because he stumbled onto, the idea of like this demon and everything else. He said, this is not a bad idea to explain it. Especially when you have people who say, I'm good, I'm this, I'm boom. Yeah, but you did this. And which is, I tried to explain this Tuesday night too, but I kind of cut it short. They didn't make it to Dale.
Yeah.
And I liked that fact because they kept it in the Greek realm. All of a sudden they didn't bring in Jesus Christ, or all of a sudden they didn't bring in the devil. It was a Greek story or a Greek fable. And I really enjoyed that fact because they didn't bring it in, because I've seen that element in other movies. Not complaining about it, but this was a different look. And so you knew the person had to go down a different path. Alison Lohman, she had to go down that different path to seek help.
Yeah, she has to bring her own occultists into it.
Right. And that's what I really got into this movie about. Yes, I'll be honest, I'm looking for Bruce Campbell.
You what?
I was looking for Bruce Campbell. I was waiting for Bruce Campbell to come walking in the door.
Oh God! With a shotgun, that might have solved a lot of problems early on. I was thinking that because that thing kept appearing at the door, and I'm like, "Where's this lady's gun?"
Yeah.
Where's her 380? Where's the 357? Yeah. She's nice. She's a nice lady.
She seems to be the nice person. If somebody was coming at the door, she'd open up, and then they would come in with guns.
Yeah, she's a nice little bank loan officer with a nice boyfriend and a little kitten, and
everything's a kitten to be sacrificed.
And,
I loved the seance scene in the movie.
It was pretty good.
I was I have to admit I was impressed the goat talking. That made me giggle. But I was like, And I love the very, very end of the movie. I don't know if we can give that away with a spoiler because
yeah. Go right ahead.
When you were expecting her to make it, or you thought she made it, that she did this whole thing, her boyfriend goes, "Oh, you grabbed the wrong envelope," and hands it back to her, and boom.
And she just gets grabbed and pulled down, and I mean, at no point throughout the movie I was like, that's just wrong. It was, it's just, it's, but I mean, it's not like this movie could have been a lot darker, but it's Raimi. So he brings the comedic elements into it. And when you're thinking of seances, I was thinking of The Others, where you have a lot of seances, or I guess we saw some of that in Hereditary, although I don't always want to bring everything back to Hereditary. I remember some rather memorable seance scenes in Penny Dreadful.
Mm-hmm. There was a seance in the first Evil Dead movie.
Was there?
I'm sorry, Tower Cards, using a deck of cards. But there was another one. Christ, there was a movie called Ouija Board, or Ouija.
Yeah, I don't remember if that was any good, but I think that there was one with. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
I was gonna say there was one with Tony Katane called Witchboard.
Uh-huh.
I remember that. Yeah.
But that's always a good scenario, or a good scene, or a good situation, because it can bring something up that's unexpected.
That's like the opening that lets you know something not so great is going to happen.
I mean, if you not to really send your stomach for a spin, but if you ever saw the movie Ghost, Whoopi Goldberg was doing Tower.
Oh yeah, it was great. That was great.
And then she did it as a good comedy bit.
Yeah.
Because you were expecting the ghost, and it was the exact opposite.
Yeah, because then everybody starts channeling through her, like everybody all the dead people in her neighborhood.
Yeah,
start channeling through her. Yeah. It was a great performance by her. She was fantastic.
They did that on purpose. They went out of their way because they said everybody has that Ouija board scene, or has that. I mean, God, when we went to Stockton, I knew so many girls that was going to date, and they were like, "You want to see my Ouija board?" I'm like, "Yeah, okay."
Yeah, no, thanks.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go over here and have some coffee.
Yeah, that's quite all right. Yeah, not good.
But that's the point about, and I think Sam, and I cannot remember his brother's name. I'm really apologetic about that. When they wrote this, they just thought they had a good movie, and wanted to do it. And I'm kind of glad Sam went back to it. I like his style of comedy, where it can be dark and humorous. Not just the Evil Dead films. He also he produced Don't Breathe.
Yeah.
That came out, and the other one.
Yeah.
And there's moments, not many moments, but there's lighter moments in those films. There's,
I think it was Fede Alvarez who did Don't Breathe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to remember the guy who directed Shaun of the Dead.
I never saw that.
Yeah, it was Simon Pegg wrote this comedy zombie movie in England.
Okay.
And it was an all-out comedy bit, and it got good reviews and got a decent amount of money. And the Raimi brothers offered the director to direct it, and he couldn't because he was doing another movie. I mean, it took about 10, 12 years to get this movie up to snuff.
That's a good one.
And they give a lot of credit to the fact that he did Spider-Man, because the three films
made a lot of money.
Brought in $1 billion collaborative.
Yeah, for Sony. So
so they were like, "Here you go, have some money." And he didn't go over the top with the CGI. He didn't. I mean, he stuck with
practical effects. Yeah,
and it made it work.
Yeah. I mean, when they actually, some of the disappointing scenes were when the CGI came into it.
Exactly.
When she drops the anvil on him, and the hand comes out and shoots down her, you're like, okay, this is not looking so great.
When she in the scene at the graveyard where she digs up the gypsy's body and goes to put the
button.
The button. with her. And that fight scene, you know, and at that, I remember seeing that and laughing, but when the water was coming in and everything else, the first time I saw it, I was like, oh my God, she's going to fucking drown. I really thought she was in danger. And
it doesn't seem like it's working out very well in her favor throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
It seems inevitable.
Yeah, but she says, you know, go to hell, bitch, or whatever she says, and the cross falls in on her.
Yeah,
I love stuff like that. And
they did a good job of pulling a twist at the end.
Yeah.
It's a good script. It's a good performance. It's good direction. It's a good movie.
And I was surprised how much, what's his name? I actually liked. The boyfriend.
Justin Long.
I liked him only because I was expecting him to be more. I was actually expecting him to die, to be honest.
I seem to recall, and that's what I thought was going to happen, where like he held the coin, and I thought they were just going to grab him.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, and then I was like, oh, okay, no, she takes it back, I guess, and you know,
and that
she
was
gets
her punishment.
She gets got.
Yeah,
it's a horror movie, and in this line of whatever it is that we're doing, things tend not to work out too well most of the time for the protagonists. It just kind of works out that way.
And I kind of like that because sometimes the protagonist doesn't win.
Well, I think in horror movies, it's most of the time.
Yeah.
In horror movies, it's most of the time. At least in most of the better ones.
Yes.
I mean, unless it's like an exceptional one, like The Exorcist or something like that, where you can twist a couple of times and have it come out. Well, it's a decent movie. Check it out, man. Sam Raimi's Drag Me to Hell. I don't think it's streaming anymore.
It'll be back around Halloween.
It was on HBO, but it's not there anymore. But if you get a chance, check it out. My thanks to Aesop Fibber for dropping in tonight and
thanks for having me.
Talking some Raimi. And we'll be back next week on Tuesday. Eric and I think John's going to join us, and whoever else wants to. We're going to be covering Starship Troopers. And then on Thursday, my buddy Doug Lester is going to be here, and we're going to talk about a hellish movie called Hunter x Hunter. It's rough. It's a rough movie. Stick around after the outro.
You got it.
And as always, don't waste your time with bullshit. Good night.
Be well.